aka Total Makeup Junkie 101. So many of you guys have been asking me to do a review on the new L'Oreal Infallible Pro Glow Radiant Finish Normal to Dry Skin Hydrating Foundation. I don't know what's up with drugstore products and them feeling like they need to throw in every single word in the dictionary to describe their products, but this foundation was a really exciting release, especially for people who love drugstore foundation, because I'm sure you guys have all seen this tube floating around YouTube and floating around the drugstore, the L'Oreal Infallible Pro Matte. This is such a great foundation, especially for those of you guys who have oily skin. I did do a full review and demo and wearing it throughout the day type video on this foundation. If you haven't seen it, I will link that video in the description below for you guys. But today I'm going to be talking about their new Pro Glow version. I picked this foundation up at Target for $12.99, which seems to be around the average price of a drugstore foundation nowadays. I do think that it's pricey, but you can always use coupons or find it on sale. The shade that I picked it up in is number 210 Classic Tan. And one thing I did want to point out that I really like about this version over this version is that it is a completely clear window on the front, unlike the Pro Matte, which had a foggy window. And I felt like you definitely couldn't see the true color of the foundation through this foggy window. But luckily, this is the true color of the foundation that's inside. This foundation does contain a broad spectrum SPF 15 sunscreen in it, and it claims to be up to a 24-hour wear. That's what it says up here. On the back of the tube, I really like the way L'Oreal is doing this now. They have this little grid that tells you the exact claims of this foundation, so we know exactly what we're testing. This says lasting glow foundation, never dull, never greasy. The finish is supposed to be radiant. The wear is supposed to be up to 24 hours. The coverage is medium and the texture is air light. You do get 1 ounce of product in this tube, which is pretty typical for most liquid foundations. And it does come with a squeezy little tube, so I really like the overall packaging. So today's video is not going to be laid out like my typical review format. I'm actually gonna go ahead and demo this product. I will show you how I apply it onto my skin. I'll show you how it looks freshly applied. And then I'm going to wear it throughout the day, and I will do check-ins every couple hours, up to 8 hours, just so you guys can see how it wears throughout a typical work day. I know this foundation claims to wear for up to 24 hours, but I never wear my foundation for 24 hours. And I figured if I could get this to last decently on me for an 8-hour day, I think that's pretty good, especially given the fact that my skin is very oily and my skin naturally produces a lot of oil. So I figured testing a glowy foundation on oily skin, I guess, will really give you the true sense of how glowy is this foundation. And as I do my check-ins throughout the day, I will definitely give you guys more information on how this foundation is looking and feeling and wearing. But for now, I do want to jump into a demo demonstrating exactly how I apply this foundation, how I've got it to work the best for my skin type. So if you guys have watched any of my foundation reviews in the past, you guys know that I like to keep this very scientific so you guys can really get a sense of this foundation up against one of my favorite foundations. So I always do a split face. So what I decided to do for this video is to apply my favorite MAC Pro Longwear foundation to half of my face, and then I applied the L'Oreal Pro Glow to the other half. And keeping all other variables the same, like my primer and my setting powder and even the product I use to apply both of these, I figured you guys will get a true sense of how this foundation wears up against one of my favorites. Do keep in mind that the L'Oreal foundation does not claim to do the same things as the MAC foundation. This is supposed to be a super long wearing, practically waterproof foundation, and this one is not, but I figured I still wanted to do a head-to-head with my all-time favorite foundation. This is my very first time putting a glowy finish foundation up against my MAC Pro Longwear, so I don't expect them to wear the same, but I think it'll be nice for your guys' reference just so you could see the wear. So anyways, long story short, let's go ahead and jump into a demo of me applying both of these to two different sides of my face. So I went ahead and finished my eye makeup, but I have nothing on the rest of my skin. I am gonna go ahead and prep my entire face. First off with my Smashbox Photo Finish Primer Water, and then following up in my T-zone with my Smashbox Photo Finish Pore Minimizing Primer. Now that my skin is all prepped, I will go in and do the control side of my face using my favorite liquid foundation, the MAC Pro Longwear Foundation. My shade is NC45. And I'm gonna go ahead and just use this in combination with a beauty blender. Side of my face is all foundationed up with my MAC Pro Longwear Foundation, and this side of my face is all bare. I will go ahead and clean up my beauty blender sponge so we're not cross-contaminating any of the products here, so I will be right back. And just like magic, I am back with a clean, or relatively clean, beauty blender sponge. I am gonna go in on this side of my face using the new L'Oreal Pro Glow. So I am gonna go ahead and shake up the foundation, and then I'm gonna squeeze a little bit onto the back of my hand. You guys can see the texture of it is relatively thin. You can see it's kind of dripping off my hand, but it's not like super liquidy. Doesn't really have any sort of a scent, but I thought I'd mention that. So I'm just gonna go ahead and start applying this onto this side of my face. Texture-wise, it's definitely a lot thinner than my MAC foundation, so I'm not gonna overdo it by applying too much. I'll just apply that much for now, and then go ahead and just start bumping it in. I am gonna go ahead and build it up just in the areas where I feel like I need just a little bit more coverage, like around my nose and a little under my eye, because I'm not going to be applying concealer over this, just to keep it like a fair experimental test. Okay, I think that's about as much coverage as I'm going to get out of this foundation. So I just want to show you guys a little side by side. This is the L'Oreal Pro Glow side, and then this is my MAC Pro Longwear side. I'm by no means saying that the finishes of these two foundations are the same, because they're not, but I just want to show you guys a side by side on how my face normally looks throughout the day, and then how this Pro Glow is going to look. I will go ahead and give the L'Oreal just a couple of minutes to set a little bit before I go in with a powder. I do want to set this with a setting powder, even though I know that some people will say, hey, that's not really giving the foundation a fair shot, but I have oily skin, so I always use a setting powder over any foundation, matte, glowy, everything in between. I will use a setting powder just for my own sanity. Now that I've given this foundation a couple minutes to set, I will go ahead and use my Laura Mercier loose translucent setting powder with my Hakuhodo brush and just powder all over my skin. And then just to take a little bit of that powderiness away, I will just pat over that with my beauty blender. Okay, so that is the foundation all powdered up. So once again, MAC side, L'Oreal side. I will go ahead and finish up the rest of my makeup, and I will be right back. So I went ahead and finished up the rest of my makeup, and I did want to point out the blush that I used on my cheeks, because it is the only product I used on my cheeks. It's the Wet n Wild Color Icon blush in the shade Mellow Wine. It's a pretty kind of peachy, neutral, matte color, and I wanted to make that very clear because I did not apply any sort of highlight or any shimmery products on my face at all. I wanted to take extra care to make sure sure I didn't use any shimmer products on my face because I really want to see the true glow that this foundation will give me on my skin as I wear it throughout the day. So it is currently 2:18 in the afternoon right now. I will have this foundation on for a good 8 hours so you guys can see how it's wearing throughout the day. I will do check-ins for you guys, but as of now, this is the MAC side and this is the L'Oreal side. And I think they're both looking really good at this point. It's now 4:43, so just about 2.5 hours after initial application. So this is how it is looking. Here is the L'Oreal side compared to the MAC side. I will say that looking up close in a mirror, I can definitely see that the MAC side is looking a lot more flawless and matte. More than that, it's also not really emphasizing the texture on my cheeks as much. I have very, very textured skin. That's just the way my skin is. And I do feel like the L'Oreal side is looking a lot more like bumpy than the MAC side is. Let me zoom you guys in even more so you can kind of get a sense of this. But if you look even right around my nose, it's definitely looking a lot more shiny than on this side. Now this foundation is supposed to be a glowy finish, so I do feel like it is achieving that. But I am worried because it's only been 2.5 hours and it's already kind of looking shiny. I'm just worried that after 8 hours, I will be looking like a grease ball. But really, we're just gonna have to wait and see about that. I will say the MAC side is most definitely holding up better, and I just think overall it's just looking more flawless. But in terms of the feel on my skin, they're both feeling really lightweight. One side isn't feeling heavier or greasier than the other. Okay, so I will continue to let this foundation sit on my skin for another 2.5 hours before I do my next check-in, so you can see how it's wearing after 5 hours of wear. I am not going to touch it up. I will not blot my skin. We will just see how it's looking with my natural skin oils. So I'll see you in a bit. It's now 7:30, so just over 5 hours after initial application. And you can see the wear. My face is definitely looking a lot more glowy than it was when we started this test. Obviously, I have not blotted, I haven't touched up, I haven't done anything to my face. This is just natural. Here is the L'Oreal side, and then here is the MAC side. So I will say that looking at it in a mirror up close, both of the sides are looking pretty good. The MAC side is most definitely holding up better. The L'Oreal side is definitely looking glowy, and interestingly enough, this foundation doesn't really have any shimmer particles or any glitter particles in it. When I initially applied the foundation onto my skin, I couldn't tell, you know, any visible shimmer, but the longer it's sitting on my skin, it almost looks like I've applied a highlight. And even looking in the mirror up close, when I kind of like move my face, it almost looks like there is some shine or like something there that's giving it that glow. I actually don't think it's necessarily unflattering. There are areas like right around my nose in this area that I would love to blot, or like my forehead. I would love to just take a tissue and just blot that right now, but I am going to go the whole 8 hours without touching up. Let me go ahead and zoom you guys even closer so you can get this very, very awkward look at my skin. So you can see, I mean, both sides are definitely glowy, but without a doubt, the L'Oreal side is a much more dewy. And I know my eyelash is like popping up too. I didn't want to take it off because I have to finish this video, but now it's like very, very awkward. Anyways, let me go ahead and give you guys a real up close look. L'Oreal side, MAC side. In terms of the way that these feel on my skin, I definitely think the MAC one is feeling a little lighter and more fresh than the L'Oreal. Just when I kind of touch my face like this, the L'Oreal side has a little bit more of like a tack or like a stick to it. Not that it's like super sticky, but it definitely feels like, you know, it's gonna transfer a little bit more than the MAC one. And while I know this foundation isn't necessarily geared towards my skin type because I do have oily skin, I actually don't think it's looking too bad. It's not breaking up, it's not looking patchy. I'm sure that if I were to just blot my skin real quick right now, the foundation would look completely flawless. So I am really happy with the wear at the 5-hour mark. So I will go ahead and do a final check-in in another 3 hours. So you guys will see how this foundation wears throughout a full 8-hour day. So it is now 10:20 at night. So pretty much exactly 8 hours after initial application. Here we have the wear on the L'Oreal Infallible side. And then here we have the wear on the MAC Pro Longwear side. Both sides are looking a little dewy, a little greasier, actually quite a bit greasier than initial application. Even with that being said, the L'Oreal Pro Glow side is definitely looking shiny, practically just oily, especially in my T-zone area, like my forehead and my nose and right here on the sides of my nose. It's just all looking really glowy. Once again, I'll zoom you in so you could get this really, really awkward up close angle, but it really gives you a true idea of the wear of the product. And I want you guys to see that on my relatively oily skin, this foundation does need to be touched up. It will need to be blotted throughout the day and or powdered. So I did go ahead and bring just a normal tissue for me to blot my face with, just so you could see if you were to blot throughout the day, will this foundation still look good and not break up? And you guys can see what the tissue did pick up. It did pick up some of the makeup on both sides of my skin, but now that I've blotted my face, you can see that the L'Oreal Infallible side is pretty much brand new. I mean, it looks really good. The foundation isn't fading, or it's not looking overly just weird or overly worn, as is the MAC side. I mean, the MAC side is still looking fantastic. I do think after the blotting, both sides of my face are looking really, really similar. One foundation isn't looking better than the other. It's just the L'Oreal one definitely gets greasier and oilier quicker than the MAC one. Alrighty guys, so it is late. I am ready to go shower and take this makeup off, and that is pretty much all I wanted to say about the L'Oreal Infallible Pro Glow Foundation. I do think this is definitely geared towards someone with more dry skin, but I think if you have normal to maybe even slightly oily, you could definitely get this to work. But on my really oily skin, it still didn't look too bad. I do like it. I will continue to use it. I will just have to blot throughout the day, and that is perfectly okay with me because I generally do that with most foundations. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to give this video a big thumbs up if you guys liked it, if you liked the whole demo aspect and the checking in throughout the day, because it does take me a lot longer to make videos like this where I have to check in, but I think if they're helpful and if you guys like them and if you guys keep thumbsing up these kinds of videos, I will continue to do them. And that is everything. I will talk to you guys in my next video on Thursday. I'll see you then. Bye. Hands can be removed out of this palette as well. They're just magnetized in. You can see there's this overall texture of all of the products in this palette is really soft and smooth and silky.